Hi, welcome to Father-Son Galaxy. Escape from Valo is a new middle grade novel in Star Wars The High Republic series. The book is a continuation of the story told in Race to Crash Point Tower all the way back in 2021. Ram Jabba Ram is a Jedi Padawan who witnessed firsthand the Nile's brutal attack on the people of his home planet Valo during the Republic Fair. Ram races to a communications tower and sends a call for help to the Republic. Now, a year later, the Nile remain in control of the planet, and Ram will do whatever it takes to protect the people of Valo. Our guests are the authors of Escape from Valo. Daniel Jose Older is the New York Times bestselling author of the young adult urban fantasy series Outlaw Saints, the sci-fi adventure Flood City, and the monthly comic series Star Wars The High Republic Adventures and Trail of Shadows. His other books include Race to Crash Point Tower, the historical fantasy series Dactyl Hill Squad, the Book of Lost States, the Bone Street Rumba urban fantasy series, and the young adult series The Shadow Shaper Cipher, including Shadow Shaper, which was named one of the best fantasy books of all time by Time magazine, and one of Esquire's 80 books every person should read. He won the International Latino Book Award and has been nominated for the Kirkus Prize, the World Fantasy Award, the Andre Norton Award, and others.
Alyssa Wong writes award-winning fiction, comics, novels, and games. Their stories have won the Nebula Award, the World Fantasy Award, and the Locus Award. Alyssa was a finalist for the John W. Campbell Award for Best New Writer, and their fiction has been shortlisted for the Hugo, Bram Stoker, and Shirley Jackson Awards. Alyssa Comics credits include Star Wars Dr. Aphra, which was recently nominated for a GLAAD Award, Marvel's Shang-Chi, Iron Fist, Alligator Loki, Extreme Carnage, and Deadpool, DC's Batwoman, Wonder Woman, Spirit World, and Adventure Time. Daniel and Alyssa, welcome to Father-Son Galaxy.
Hey.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having us. We're so happy to be here.
We're so excited. Thank you. So that's a long list of credits. Congratulations on the new book.
Thank
you.
Let's go to the first question.
Yes.
So, congratulations on the book, first of all. We loved it, and you make a wonderful team. Whose idea was it to have the two of you collaborate on a book?
That is actually under some debate. We even though it was pretty recently, it was kind of this weird thing where it was in the air and we both kind of knew it would work. And I think we both talked to Mike Siglain, who runs publishing, about it at different times in different ways to figure it out. I just know I was like, I've always wanted to write a book with Alyssa because Alyssa's brilliant and they're a good friend and everything else. And as much as I was at a point in my career where I was like, you know what, I've written a lot of books. I'm tired of writing books. I just want to write comics from here on out, basically. I couldn't pass up the opportunity to write a book with my good friend Alyssa.
It's so kind. It's also extra funny because I think it was 3 months before we we got together to write this book. We were hanging out and you were like, I'm never writing a book again. I'm done. You've written 20 books. That's so many. So I can't blame you for being like, I think I'm okay. But you're like, yeah, I'm good. I don't think anything could pull me out of retirement. And then look at this. Look what you did.
It pulled me back in. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So when you're collaborating, how does that work? Where does it start?
For us, I think it's in some ways it starts where every Star Wars book starts, which is you do have a basic idea of stuff, right? So particularly with the High Republic, since we both work as story architects for that, we kind of knew, where in the grand story we were coming in, and we knew we wanted Ram, and we knew it would be, a middle grade, so we knew a lot of stuff. So you start with what you know, and then you kind of get together and you decide what you want. And when you're alone, you're just sitting there like, oh, it'd be cool to do this in a book, I guess. But when you have a partner in writing, you get to be like, so what do you want to do? Oh, yeah, we could do this, and then we could do that. And that's what happened. We just would have these calls on Skype or Zoom or whatever, and we would just get excited about it. Be like, what if we had a bunch of kids running around and they're like Jedi, but they're like feral? And then what if there's a weird mad scientist guy, but he's a teenager? And he's got a mutant pet nameless creature that's melting, all that, we just throw it out there. And then the other one's like, cool, let's do that. And then you build from there.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's like the most fun about like collaborating is you're like, I have these ideas, I think they're fun, but what do you think? Like, is this too wild? I think that something I really loved is the scientist you mentioned, Niv Drendow. We went back and forth on his character because we were trying to figure out like what the story needed, like who he should be. And I think there was a time where in my head he was just like a placeholder old man, so like an 80-year-old like old scientist man. And then he became a teenager. It was perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I love him.
He's fun.
So, Escape from Valo, as you know, is a continuation story of Race to Crash Point Tower, where we meet Ram for the first time. Describe Ram as he was in Crash Point Tower and compare him to his role in Escape from Valo.
Oh, listen, you want to take this? You know,
What? No! Oh my god! Wait, you should take this. I mean, do you want me to try?
I kind of want to hear what you say. I'm just curious.
Okay.
You're an expert.
You get to tell me how
I'll let you
on
know
the
how you
mark
do.
I am. Okay, so I love Ram. John Ram, Padawan, sweetheart, mechanical building genius. Yes. I mean, he's a good kid. He's pretty young. He's sort of the baby, I think, of like all of like Daniel's High Republic kids.
Yeah.
Like the High Republic Adventures kids. I feel weird being like he's still bright and full of life.
He hasn't been tarnished by the High Republic yet.
He hasn't. He's only been through a little bit of trauma, not like the past like year and a half of trauma.
True.
But yeah, he's a good kid, and he's like I don't know. I always think of like this is like Crash Point Tower Ram is like baby Ram, and then Escape from Valo Ram is like I'm in the middle of the war Ram, and I've seen horrible things Ram, and now I'm 16 and I still feel like a baby, but I'm not. I know I'm not a baby anymore. You know.
Right.
So that's why I always think of like Crash Point Ram as this really sweet, incredibly like pure beam of sunshine. And he's still that when we hit Escape from Valo, but he's seen too much to be that anymore. So I don't know how
that was great.
Is
that was perfect.
Okay.
All I would add is like we have this middle point of him in Midnight Horizon, right? Where like we get to see him be like the younger, literally like function as a younger brother to Reith. And then suddenly, you know, he's like thrust into a position where now he's the older brother, and he has to like all of these little kids come into his life that he has to, not a little, but and then he has to take care of them, and he's like, I'm still trying to figure out how to take care of myself, but you know, you have to step up and meet the moment, and I think that's what he learned in Race to Crash Point Towers. You have to step up, but once you learn that lesson, then you have to actualize it. You know, whatever's happening around you, and Valo is really him, you know, stepping up.
Yeah. Reminds me of me.
Yeah, right.
Excellent. Good. Then we did our job.
That's good.
You didn't just do your job. You did it excellently.
Thank you.
You did. You found the characters relevant, right? Yeah. Yeah, and it's a good point that you brought up, Daniel, because I wanted to talk about his role as a leader. So he feels like he's not the leader that the team needs. And I love the conversation that he has with Gavi, and took a quote out of the book. Ram says to Gavi, I'm the one who's not enough. I'm not a master or even a knight. I fix stuff now. I can fight, yeah. But this leadership thing takes practice. It's not something you can learn when lives are on the line. And Gavi gave a great comeback for that and said, well, we don't get to decide when we become leaders or when we're ready. The galaxy decided for us. Now all we can do is step up. You are amazing, Ram Jamaram. We all look up to you. You can lead us. So talk about that passage and why you emphasize the importance of stepping up as a leader when needed.
Man, that got me all teary-eyed. Jeez. I mean, I will say this, like, I love that you found that moment, because that moment, I remember us working on that together, and you know, I actually come back to it in my head a lot, because I think like a lot of people, this is a hard time. It's a hard time to grow up. It's a hard time to exist. You know, for myself, I'll say like seeing the genocide going on, you know, every day in Palestine, it just breaks my heart every day. And there's a lot of moments when I'm like, whew, I don't know if I have what it takes to like be in this era, let alone like be someone with a platform who has to make decisions about the world and that kind of responsibility. And then I have to have that very same conversation with myself, you know, and I have to be Gavi to me. But also like, you know, I try to surround myself with people, you know, my wonderful wife, my wonderful friends like Alyssa, you know, who will also be Gavi, because sometimes we need that conversation, not a pep talk, not someone who's going to lie to you and say, oh, everything will be fine, but someone who's going to tell you the truth, which is that we have everything we need to get through this time. And even though it's hard, you know, we don't get to choose it, but we do get to choose who we're going to be in it. And that's what we have to hold on to and be, because that's all we can do.
So, could you tell us a little bit about the other characters in the book?
Yeah, listen. Yeah, please.
Me? Oh God. Okay.
Under the bus.
Okay, Daniel, let's tag team this one. In case I forget, I panic and I just forget. But we have our three, we can call them like the feral younglings. The three kids who like the only Jedi left in the city other than like Kunpar and then like Ram. But they're like three kids who escaped from like the Nile when the Nile took over. And they have sort of been living on their own for the past year, and they're very, very tight. Of those three kids, we have Gabby, who you mentioned earlier, who is he's like the kid who's trying to hold everything together for everybody else. He's like he's the glue that binds them together. He tries to take care of people, and he feels so much all the time. But due to events in the story, he's lost his connection with the Force because his fear has paralyzed him and like cut him off from accessing that. So he's struggling with like the fact that he's hiding this from everybody, and like the guilt where he's like, I feel like I should be able to do more, but I can't. And the stress of having that, and like, again, like Daniel said, what it means to live in the world where everything is too much all at once, and what it means to step up and to meet that. There's Kildo, who is another youngling. He's on Elstedian, which is like a bird-ish type species, and he is Gabby's crush. He's like a fun, mischievous kind of dude who's based on like a magpie. And I always describe him as like the kid who has like really, really, really intense ADHD, like me. And he's like the fun, he's the prankster, but also he's been through so much. They all have. And the last youngling is Tep Tep, who's like the baby of the group. She's like everyone's little sister. She is just a ton of fun, very shy, but when she opens up to you, she's like very enthusiastic and bubbly. She loves animals, and the bigger and more like carnivorous the animal is, the more she loves them. So she has like all of these like big predatory animals who are all like her friends who like protect her. She's great.
And then finally we got Zyle, who is a pirate, who's the grandchild of some of the crew of Sayakim, who we met in phase 2, which happened 150 years earlier. And really is like this chaotic element and everything, but really gets along really well and loves the Jedi kids, even though they all just met, but they are fast friends and they form a fast team of do-gooders and chaos. Wow.
You should, I was gonna say, do you want to talk about Niv Drendow?
Niv Drendow. I mean, we mentioned him, you know, he is a genius, and he is very on the wrong path of life in every possible way. he's like too smart for his own good, and he's totally single-minded. Everything for him is about these nameless and all his experiments and everything else, and nobody else really matters, and he's just like, that's all he wants to do, which makes him a very dangerous adversary.
Mm-hmm. I think that somewhere in the book you described him as having the personality of a bag of teeth, which I love.
What?
I did. And I wrote it and was like, I don't know. I don't even know what this means, but it's true somehow.
Pause. The personality of a bag of teeth?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Could you imagine walking up to somebody and say, "Yeah, dude, you have the personality of a glass of water."
That would be a whole other yes. One day maybe I'll say that to someone. I love that.
Well, now that you described him that way, I mean, do you know now what that means?
You know, it's just like he's very unpleasant. Like it's like so like the last thing, but also in like a sort of a surprising and irritating way where you're like, what is a bag of teeth? Like a bag of teeth, there's all kinds. Why are the teeth in the bag? Like what noise does it? Whose teeth were they? Is it one person or lots of different people?
Yeah.
And I feel like when you meet Niv Drando, you have similar questions. Like what happened to this kid that made him act this way towards everyone he meets? He is repugnant personified.
And you're shaking the bag, you're hearing this rattling sound. Like,
just that rattling, like, oh goodness.
It's rattling.
Nobody ever expects or wants a bag of teeth, like if it's a surprise.
Right.
I feel like very few people do. Some people probably do, but
Niv Drando might.
Niv Drando probably would want a bag of teeth.
He's like, ooh, experiments. Yes.
Great name day present for Niv Drando.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, I like that. Now, that's interesting because there is another character that really caught my attention. I wanted to talk about her. Her name is Drigget Parse.
Ah, yes.
And she is described in the book as a 14-year-old human girl and a recent Now recruit. And she has a backstory that I thought was so well written. I wanted to just talk about this for a little bit. And I'd like you to read a passage from it if you have it available to set it up. The Nile are terrorizing her town. They've broken into her home. They brutally beaten her parents. And she then runs out of her home to the Valo temple to check on her Jedi friends. And when she's get there, there are many Jedi that are just wiped out. And she is approached by an Ithorian who mistakes her for a Jedi. And he sends a creature after her. But then when he realizes that she's not a Jedi, he calls off the creature. And then if you could pick it up from there and just talk about that passage. We'll talk about the passage after you've read it.
Let me grab my copy. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. I'm also grabbing my copy.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So let me see if I can look up that passage. Sorry.
What page is it?
Page 225.
Okay. Man, I haven't really properly leafed through the final copy. 225,
All right,
right?
Fast, grab your copies and flip to page
I know,
225 for read aloud.
I don't normally do this. I mean, but it's just something.
It's such a good book.
I couldn't do it justice if I'm reading it because I think if it comes from you, the writer, it's
definitely
it really. I didn't forget about it. This was my favorite part of the book. So if you wouldn't mind, if we can.
Oh.
And it starts with the Ithorian hummed.
Oh yeah.
225.
All right, I'll be the Ithorian if you be the narrator, Alyssa.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. Oh, you want me to narrate the whole thing? All right, let's go.
We're gonna do part of it. Yes.
Yeah, I'll narrate. I'm gonna make you. You're gonna be the Ithorian. Sorry, dude.
It's fine.
The Ithorian hummed, and the creature backed away, returning to his side.
No Jedi after all. What brings you to their temple?
Drigget cautiously sat up, her pulse hammering. She started, trying to buy time. Her mind raced frantically. The wrong answer would get her killed, but she couldn't give them the right answer. She just couldn't. The Ithorian waited patiently. Force forgive her. I'm sick of the Jedi, Drigget spat. The lies burned in her mouth. She forced them out anyway. I hate them, acting like they're better than us because of their force powers. I heard the Nile were getting rid of them, so I came out here to see if it was true. Good riddance to trash. She barked out a laugh. The courtyard looks much better now. The Ithorian let out a low rumble in response. It took Drigget a second to realize that he was laughing too.
Well said, child. The Nile are always looking for bright young recruits like you.
There was only one path forward, only one way to survive, and if she died here, who would take care of her family? A part of her was screaming. Drigget crushed it down mercilessly, burying it deep inside. She looked up at the Ithorian and bared her teeth in a vicious smile. Where do I sign up?
That's it.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I got chills.
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
yay.
Can we discuss that passage? What went into creating, first of all, this character Drigget,
Yeah, let's discuss,
yeah,
class.
and this backstory, because it was just it was wonderfully written, like I said before. Can we just talk a little more about how this was created, this passage?
Well, when we were trying to figure out like what the cast of characters looked like for this book, someone, I'm pretty sure it was Daniel, was like, we should have like we have these Jedi kids, we should have like a local Nile kid. Somebody who's like their age and not just like a bunch of adults, to be like a good antagonist. So we came up with this character who Daniel named, thank you, who is connected to like the Jedi kids, like was like their really close friend, and from there we sort of built it out. And this passage actually surprised me because when we were breaking down story, Daniel went through and made a very helpful brief outline of like, here's what happens in this chapter, here's what happens in this chapter, here's what happens in this chapter, after we like discussed it and stuff. And this was not in it. It just sort of happened, which was really cool because it felt really natural. And Drigget Parse is, unsurprisingly to everyone, my favorite character. I think that for me, like, she's a local kid who isn't a Jedi and isn't plugged into the Force the way they are, doesn't have special powers, and isn't really like, never thought she would have to be a hero or a villain. I'll come and take over Lenisa City. The Jedi are gone, and suddenly she's left alone and has this impossible choice that she has to make. And so for her, it becomes like, how do I survive? How do I, like, what do I have to do? And how much do I have to put myself on the line to make sure that everybody I care about survives? And as we see, it eats her alive. So it's my girl.
Yeah, very powerful.
I have a question. How do you come up with these names? Like, do you take a random regular human name and then just like whip out a Caesar cipher and shift all the letters through?
No,
Do you
this
just
is what
come up
happens.
with something in your head? Like, how do you make these names?
Alyssa goes, Daniel, please name this character. And I go,
It's true.
Drigget Parse.
Yeah, that's a Star Wars name. Yeah.
It really is like, I love naming characters because it's a Sonic game. And I think sometimes we forget, not to like get too deep with it, but sometimes we forget how important the sounds of things are, because as writers, we get so caught up in the meaning of things, but the sound matters equally just as much. And if not more, like sounds are so important, because writing always goes back to speaking. It's an oral tradition that we're working in, even though it's a written word. We're still thinking about the way that we were once storytellers and still are, and that we spoke to each other. And I think about that a lot. And I think it's so important, like, to read out loud everything that you've written, like just speak it out loud into the world so you can hear it, to see how it sounds. And that's especially true of names. Like, names have a sound, and the sound carries meaning outside of like what the word itself means. So Drigget Parse, like, it has a vibe to it, it has a feeling, and that's how you know that it's right. You know, like you don't know, you can't explain it, but you just like, yeah, it's that's right. Niv Drendow, I don't know, it gives certain vibes to it. So you keep playing with it until it hits, because you'll start somewhere. I don't remember where. I think Drigget Parse just came out right. Niv Drendow, we played with a little bit, whatever, but you play with it and you're like, no, it's not that, but what if it's this? And then you get there.
We had a pretty like blank slate kind of like, we mentioned Niv Drendow I was like, he's an 80-year-old scientist man. Drigget Parse was like, this is a name for like a mean little boy. Like, I don't know, this is fine. And you were like, here's the name. And I was like, oh, I love her already. Like, like it just felt right. And now she's a mean little girl. So
That's right.
True. That's true.
When you read another book, can you name a character after my dad?
What do you mean?
Throw him in Star Wars and make sure he enjoys butter
Am I-
cookies too.
Am I going to be an evil person?
I mean,
Okay.
it depends.
Yeah, I listen. The only reason I hesitate sometimes to name people after people is because you never know who's going to get killed in Star Wars. And
Oh,
I-
right, that's a good
no.
point. Yeah, that's
we
right.
killed off somebody.
I wouldn't be offended though. Just having my name in Star
Thanks for
Wars, it
going
doesn't
there.
matter.
But Keith, that was really nice of you to ask for your dad. Most people are like, name a character after me. That was
Yeah,
really
how
sweet.
about
I
that you asked
volunteered him.
for your
No,
dad.
that's
What
nice.
a nice kid you are, man.
Yeah, that's
Aw,
so
thanks.
sweet.
That's beautiful.
You got the next question. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I find that in Star Wars in particular, young people are finding themselves in positions where they have to make a life or death decision in an instant.
Yes.
In reality, you never want to see a child in grave danger, but in fiction, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
This is going to sound crazy.
No.
Why are stories of putting children in harm's way making these kinds of life or death decisions so compelling?
That's such a good question.
It's a really good question.
I'll tell you my answer. Alyssa, I'm curious to hear their answer, but my answer is that a story for young people has to be about young people, and the young people have to be the ones driving the action, taking all the attention, and ruling the day, and especially like winning the day at the end, one way or the other. But the other thing is, in order for that win to feel like it matters, they have to overcome insurmountable obstacles to get there. Having said that, sometimes those insurmountable obstacles are like asking your crush out on a date, right? Or passing a really difficult exam. They don't always have to be, defeating the evil galactic, Viking. But in Star Wars, they do kind of always have to be something like that because people come to Star Wars looking for action and adventure and excitement. So which really is the question for us as writers is always a question of balance, right? Because we don't want to traumatize young people or anybody by just being like, everything sucks, it's terrible, you're all gonna die. Like that would be bad. That would be a bad book, right? But if we were like, once upon a time, there was a galaxy far, far away where everything worked out great and everyone was super happy and nobody had any problems, you'd be like, why am I reading this extremely boring book? I hate it. And so it's like, you can't, those are the extremes, right? So you have to find where in the middle are things going to be most exciting and also most fun, and throw a kid into that and then watch them struggle to get out on top.
Wait. See, you got to take the most dangerous situation you can think of.
Yeah.
Throw a child in there.
Yeah.
And watch him
Yeah.
struggle.
It's basically child abuse, but it's not. Because it's fiction.
Oh, man.
Thank God for fiction. Alyssa, I want to hear your answer.
Yeah.
What? That's such a good answer, though. Oh my god.
What? Child abuse, but write it.
Well, no. But I think part of
That's crazy.
I mean, I think part of it is that, as a kid, you want adventure, you want excitement, you want to know that when everything seems impossible, like you can do it. And I also think that like Driggett's a good example. Like there are a lot of kids out there who are going through some really, really, really difficult things.
That's real.
And sometimes, honestly, just knowing that like other people see that and that it is real, even when people are telling you that it isn't, can be really helpful.
Yeah.
But also we like adventure. Like we're being real. Like it's so fun. It's kind of like, why would I, if I'm a kid, then why would I have to wait to be a grown up before I can have an adventure too?
Right.
I think what Daniel said about stakes too is really important as well. My answer's not as fun as Daniel's.
Still a great answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
No, well, it makes sense to me because if you think about it, that's what fairy tales are all about, right? Star Wars is like a fairy tale. I mean, you go
Fairy
back
tales
to
are way darker.
hundreds of years ago, stories like Hansel and Gretel,
Yeah, man.
or Little Red Riding Hood. These kids are always in danger of being taken away or eaten or whatever it is, or Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz.
And that's we get the watered down versions.
Dealing with
like
the Wicked Witch. So
Yeah.
this is nothing new.
Right.
Having these young people in peril and trying to figure out a way to get them out. How are they going to get out of this? So
Exactly.
yeah, it's just something that's just tale as old as time, right? You know, it's passed down from generations to generations, and those stories never get old.
Mhm.
High Republic Phase 5. We're gonna have babies wielding lightsabers.
Young Jedi Adventures.
Like a 2-month-old kid
that
who
is-
walking
that
and
is Young Jedi
using the
Adventures.
force and
Yeah.
throwing a bunch of Nihil around.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You've written an incredible book. So this
you.
was it's again compelling. It's high stakes. I love your characters, and I love the ending. I get that there's going to be more to these characters and these stories in the future, so I can't wait to see them. I wanted to shift gears a little bit, Daniel, and ask you a question. So we were talking earlier before we started recording that you at some point did live in New York, Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I lived there for 14 years. I was a paramedic for 10 of those years, and I love that city a lot. I wrote, most of the first chunk of my career I was there, so I was writing a lot, and most of my books take place in Brooklyn when they don't take place, in a galaxy far, far away. And it's just a place that's really close to my heart.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
As a writer, it's pretty important to write in locations that are familiar to you.
Yes, that's so
Easy to
true.
write location and scenery when you know it like the back of your hand.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good
That's
point.
so exactly true. Very true.
Yeah. And then I mentioned to you that I also grew up in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, and my wife is from the Bronx.
Yeah.
My question for you then is, how does a person go from being an EMT to a New York Times bestselling author? How did you do that?
Let me see. Do you have a couple hours? No, I mean, the straightforward answer, I don't know what the answer is. The answer is I love writing, and so I write a lot, and I keep writing. And when, like we were talking about how I was tired of novels, I still love writing. It's just like it's taking a different medium now, and now I love writing comics. So but ultimately it comes back to stories, and I love stories so much. And being on the ambulance, paramedics are some good storytellers. Like I feel like I learned a lot of, as much as I read. As you can see, I love books, right? And I learned a lot from reading so many books, absolutely. But just as much I've learned from listening to people on the street in my life, partners on the ambulance, family and friends. Like, I really believe in that power of story. And so for me, it meant like, okay, I knew I wanted to tell stories. I didn't know what medium. For a while, I was really like trying to figure that out, just trying all kinds of different stuff. It was music for a long time. And then finally I was like, no, it's books. So I sat down and wrote a book and got it rejected over and over and over. My first book got rejected 40 times, 40, Shadow Shaper. And nobody wanted it. They did not want it. And it was like, wow, because I was like, I knew it was good. I did know that, but I didn't know if it was good enough to make a career out of or get published. And everyone was telling me no, but I kept going. And as I was doing that, I was learning more and more and more. I was taking notes. I was getting notes and getting advice from other writers, from the agents that were rejecting me. They were telling me stuff. I was learning from that. I was taking classes, and I was just learning all that time. And then when it finally did get published, I had a whole nother road ahead of me of learning how to get it even better from the editorial notes from the editor. And all that was going on. And then that book went on to become a New York Times bestseller and, win awards and all this cool stuff. And so there was like a happy ending, but the happy ending was just the beginning, because that's really where then my career, went from there.
Wow. That's such an incredible story. Wow.
Thank you.
40 times? Oh my God.
40 times. And I mean, I think 40 times is like average. Like I know writers who've gotten more rejections.
Wow.
And my wife,
Yeah.
my wife, like got her book picked up on the first try, which is amazing, and like
Whoa.
that's so beautiful. Yeah. So like Brittany Williams, That Self-Same Metal is the name of her book, and it's incredible. And like it should have been picked up on the first go. Like, so you never know, and that's the hardest part almost. Like if you went into it and you're like, all right, it's gonna be 40 times, then you could just be like, okay, I'm almost to 40. I'm gonna get there, right? But you don't know. It could be 60, it could be 2. So that is really hard. And I think like that, what that does is require us as writers to have community around us, right? The hardest moments of that journey was when I was like, I don't know if this is ever going to happen. And I would check in with other writers And I'd be like, yo, have you ever been through this? And they'd be like, yeah, it's hard. Like, I got rejected XYZ number of times, or I got rejected and this publisher told me that they don't want to see, Black and brown characters. And right. So like you dealing with racism too, and you got to deal with that. Like, what's that look like? Right. Do you have to then like change up what you're doing? I knew I was never going to like not write about Black and brown characters, because that was built into why I got into publishing. Like, that's part of my mission as a writer, is to like get these stories out there of our folks. And so that was just like obvious to me. I didn't have to make that decision, because it was always going to be that. But that meant maybe it's a longer road. And so be it. Right? So then that's what you do.
Yeah. And you never gave up on that passion to write. You just kept going.
No, it didn't feel like an active choice. Like I said, there were times I thought about it for sure, but like it just didn't feel possible. Like I felt like I would have lost my mind if I didn't write. So I might as well get paid to do it. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I was at. So I kept trying, and not for nothing, but having a day job did really help. Like being a paramedic taught me a lot about life, taught me a lot about death, taught me a lot about everything in between, but also it paid my rent. So when I got rejected for my books, it didn't mean that I wasn't going to eat that night. It just meant that I had to try again, but go to work the next day too. And that does help. I always tell my students, like, it's really helpful to have another job that lets you write, but teaches you about life and pays your rent at the same time. It's a win-win.
Yeah. It's always good to have something to do that can pay your rent.
Something to fall back on. Yeah,
yes, it's helpful. It's very helpful. Yeah.
Alyssa. Let's talk about Dr. Aphra.
Yeah, baby.
Yes. So you took over as head writer in 2020. And it is, unfortunately, the last issue came out this month, the 40th issue. The series has come to a close, which is very unfortunate, but I have a copy of that comic book right here. I want to say congratulations to you for creating even continuing such an indelible character.
I can tell you this.
Yeah.
I have seen Dad many a time go to these comic book stores like, where's Dr. Aphra?
Wait,
where's the Dr. Aphra comic?
Okay, well,
where's the book?
I love that expression.
Well,
where's my Dr. Aphra comic?
As a matter of fact, no. I want to make sure I got this last issue, because I know this is going to be a very important issue, and I wanted to have it. I wanted, this to me is history. So I wanted to have this book, and there is a comic book shop that I do have a relationship with, and I went to the shop and I ordered it ahead of time. I said, hey, issue number 40 is coming out. Please put it in my pull, okay, when it's released. So the day it's released, I call my guy, the comic book guy, and I said, well, okay, I'm coming in to pick up the comic book. He said, oh, well, we don't have it. He's like, well, what do you mean you don't have it? Oh, well, the warehouse, lost it or something. I was a little upset. So
the warehouse lost it. Wait, when they say the warehouse,
I realize that I'm now telling this story, and this guy could be watching this episode right now, and I'm talking.
Hi.
The warehouse lost it. Do you mean the warehouse lost it as in they threw the package and they said, I can't handle this, or they lost it as in it was somewhere over the Pacific and they can't find it? Like, you lose a package.
To be honest with you, I think either he forgot to put the order in, or something did happen in the shipping. But anyway, so I went to another comic book shop. I had to break down and find another. So I have a copy. I have a copy of your last issue.
Yeah, we got that from the mall, right?
Yes, right.
I'll tell you the story behind that. So my mom went to get her hair done at the mall, and then I'm just sitting here like, I needed something to do. So we went to go pick up my mom, went to Five Below. I got freeze dried Skittles. That's not the point. So we went to this comic book shop in the mall, brand new shop, I think. Yeah, that's where we got this. I also got a Miles Morales comic book. So.
Yeah. So I was
all's good on that front.
I was very happy I was able to find that issue. So I wanted to ask you, talk about your experience with writing for Dr. Aphra. How much fun was that to write this comic book?
Oh, so much fun. It was so much fun. I mean, I think it changed my life. I mean, I was writing it from 2020 until like a couple of weeks ago. I guess the crazy thing is the 40th issue, the final issue, came out the day after Escape from Valo. So it was a very intense 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yay,
Afra has been a really incredible experience. It was also my first ongoing comic, which is also wild. I'm obsessed with character stories, and Afra immediately caught my attention because she's just a bad person. Like, and it's so rare. It's so rare to have like a really fun, like terrible lead character, and especially like an Asian woman. That's very unusual. Like, all right, I want to know who she is. I want to know what she's about. And I think one of the most amazing things about writing Dr. Afra was getting to create a bunch of characters, like her supporting cast, her enemies, her friends, her friends turn enemies, turn friends, and her exes. The amount of freedom that Marvel and Lucasfilm gave me to do that. It's a comic that's also very queer. I'm like, everybody's queer in this comic, and it's great. And that's something I never saw when I was growing up. So getting to do that has been really, really cool. I always tell, like, I can't believe they let me get away with this. And they always did. So I think that for me, I really enjoyed writing Dr. Afra because I had fun every day with every script. It was always a challenge. And getting to work with a bunch of like artists and colorists and letters who were like at the top of their game was really, really fun. But another thing that made writing Afra special was seeing all of these like fans online come together around that comic. I've never seen anything like it. Actually, the closest I've seen to it is probably the High Republic Adventures. But like when we went to Star Wars Celebration in London this past year, like there were just like fan meetups. People just came and like they were like, I made this Afra keychain. Actually, hold on, I might have it.
Wow.
Yeah, like
Wow.
this is by Ella, who just did a variant cover for High Republic Adventures #3.
Yeah.
There's your Afra, there's your Kofan Ferris.
Awesome.
And I have a Sana one too. But like it's been amazing to see so many people make connections and build friendships because they all like something. But they, I don't know. It's just really cool getting to see like a community come together around something and getting to kind of feel like maybe you helped out a little bit is always really nice.
A little bit. You literally wrote the comic. What's a little bit?
Yeah, but like I wasn't like I didn't pick everyone up and put them in a room and be like, you're friends now. Congratulations. But yeah. Okay, Daniel, I didn't see you.
We have this conversation every day.
We do.
You built the campfire. Like you built the campfire that everyone came around. That's not little.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
You don't thank the lighter for lighting the campfire because you're the one who lit the campfire.
You're the one that lit the campfire. Thank you, Keith.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're so wise. You're both so wise. Look at this.
Thank you.
Just do it.
Okay.
Speaking of,
yes.
There's a whole Reddit devoted just to Dr. Afra. Like r/Dr. Afra is an actual thing.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Everything.
Yeah.
Now they know.
Oh my God! Now I know.
So we know that Dr. Afra will eventually return, and we don't know when. Are you able to tell us when you think she's going to return? How she will return?
If I open my mouth, my boss is going to parachute in and just grab me and parachute back out, like
Mickey Mouse will start strangling them.
Coming like Spider-Man 2099, just leap through the window. Yeah. Like, you messed with the cannon.
Right, it's a canon event.
Right, there you go. That's it.
We're sorry.
The
it's
cannon
a cannon event.
Little red dot appear from the sniper rifle.
And then Mickey Mouse just materializes out of nowhere, like, you said too much. Goofy.
Well, okay, here's my next question. All right, let's see. Could you see Dr. Afra in live action?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Nice.
That doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Yeah,
Well, that's
like-
right. Understood.
But
But
that was the legal notice.
Who's your
Yeah.
fan casting?
Yeah,
Afro
no,
live
I-
action.
there you go. Do you have anyone in mind that you actor in mind that you think would make a great Dr. Afra?
This is such a hard question because there's so many good people, and I
Yeah.
feel like well, two things. One, I feel like somebody who can do physical comedy as well as like really intense emotional acting would be a really good choice. But my second thing is I always ask people, that's a good question. What do you think?
Oh, okay.
You just whipped that Uno reverse card.
Yes,
and the worst
yes.
part is my deck of Uno cards is like all the way on the other side of our set, so I can't.
Okay.
But I can do this. What do you think,
What do
Dad?
you think? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I do have someone in mind. I've been watching Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
with
Yes.
Donald Glover.
Let me get in there. I'm gonna watch that show.
Yeah. Well,
How violent is it?
Maya Erskine intrigues me. I've never seen her do action. I know she was in that Pen 15 series. But here she is. She is an action star. And she's also a lead. I'm kind of feeling that Dr. Afra vibe from her. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That could be that's someone that is in my thoughts. Who could be Dr. Afra? I don't know.
She's my secret
She's
answer
in-
too.
Oh, how about that? Okay. Yeah.
That's cool.
And it was interesting. Actually, Maya Erskine was actually in Obi-Wan Kenobi. She played a very minor role. I don't even remember her character's name. It was so small. But
Which episode?
it was the same episode with Cube's son. Cuba Ice Cube's son.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
rebel.
Right, yeah.
Rebellion.
That,
Was she a
right.
rebel?
That rebellion. Well, yes, he was
The
a
one
rebel.
that was like,
Yeah.
wait,
It was
was
the
that
same-
was that Maya Erskine?
No. She was very, very laid back character. I remember her buddy Wade was actually killed. Like he was one
That
of
is
the
what I
pilots.
just said.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right,
yes.
yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
do remember that part.
Yeah.
Oh.
She was such a very small role. I mean,
Character's
you
name
would
was
probably
Sully
miss it.
Stark.
Yeah. Sully.
I just looked it up.
There you go. Yeah. So
Thank
That's
you,
also the
Wiki.
lead.
that's my pick for
Blue
now.
Eye Panther.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So-
What about Stephanie Sue? I might be
Stephanie,
pronouncing it wrong.
actually, that's a good one. Yeah. Everything, everywhere, all at
Everything,
once.
everywhere.
Yeah.
all at once.
I think
The daughter.
that's a good one too. Yeah, that's a good choice. Yeah. So, I would love. I think it's time to see Dr. Afra in live action. I was, secretly hoping that she would somehow appear in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series because I know she has this relationship with Darth Vader. I know the timeline doesn't match up, but just having her and Darth Vader in a series, they could still do that. Bring back Vader, Hayden Christensen, James Earl Jones as the voice, and just tell that story. It was, how she met Vader and she double crossed him and thought she can get away with it, and he takes her and put her in an airlock. That was an excellent story, and that was I loved her droids, her assassin droids. This makes for great television, or a great film. So it has to happen.
Sounds like a show to me.
It has to happen. That's all. That's all I'm going to say.
I'd like to
Fair
see Taika Waititi direct that.
Throw that baby on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it could be Disney Plus.
That's $1 billion right there.
Yeah. I guess it might be a risk to put her in a motion picture, but yeah, Disney Plus, absolutely.
Ooh, or maybe put her in the Mandoverse.
Somehow put her in the Mandoverse, right? She's still around. There's possibilities, Alyssa. So we just want to see it. We don't, like you said, we don't know if it's going to happen, but she's a great character. And just thank you so much for your contributions to Star Wars and continued contributions to both of you. We're really looking forward to this interview, and we just love having you. We are truly honored that you're here and we were able to talk to you for just a few minutes. We appreciate it. Thank you.
We should do this more often. Just the
Yeah.
4 of us come together on this
How about
No.
Yeah.
and just talk about
We'll do a
whatever.
Star Wars roundtable, just talk about, what's
We've
next.
had a blast.
Yeah.
It's been our honor. We love
Yeah.
what you guys do. So thank you for having us.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Yeah. Where can people find you?
Let's see. The most of my energy right now online has been going towards Substack. So you can find me on Substack, where it gives me a chance to have more extended thoughts instead of just 140 or whatever characters. I am also on Instagram at Daniel Jose 1, and I'm on Twitter at DJ Older. So you can find me in all those places.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter as Crash Wong, and I have a website, crashwong.net, but that's it. It's those two things, and or just hiding in my office, writing aggressively in the dark. So
I have a website too, danieljoseolder.net.
Honestly, hiding in your office and writing aggressively in the dark sounds like.
And I also do that too. Yes.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Like it'll be midnight, lightning strikes, and I'm just sitting here with red eyes on my screen, like,
Yes.
I must finish this last page.
Obsession, yes.
Relatable.
Mom will be flicking the lights off, like, go to bed, Keith. Go to sleep. Why are you
also relatable?
You know what? I should to sleep. Like, these are literally the midnight interactions we have. It's hilarious.
I probably should
there.
tell you this because I don't want to give you ideas, but as a kid, I used to hide under my blanket with like a clipboard and a notebook and like a flashlight, write for hours. It was silly goofy stuff.
I used to do that.
So
Yeah.
fun.
Except, with like a flashlight and a book.
That's classic.
Yeah.
That's hey. That's
You got to do what you got to do.
Exactly.
I would when I was a medic and I was trying to like be a writer, I would write in the back of the ambulance on the stretcher.
Wow.
And just get my chapters in that
Excuse
way.
me?
Listen, it's actually very comfortable.
Come to your head, you just write it down. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Cool. Well, thank you both.
All right. Did you want to say something else?
Yeah, go ahead.
Where can people find us? Okay. We are tongue-tied.
Hold on.
Yes.
Hold on. I gotta rewire my circuits. Give me a
Go
second.
ahead. Go ahead.
You
Take your
something
time.
funny?
What's that?
So I go to sleep at like 10 or 11 p.m. because I just sit there and like stare at the wall or my pillow, and I'm just like, it's 10 a.m. right now. I should really go to sleep. For reference, I wake up at 4:45 a.m. to go to Dunkin' Donuts and drink the most sugary drink I could get, like the mocha frappuccino latte with whipped cream and cookie crumbles on top.
Not every day,
with the 3 sugars and 2 Splendas.
Okay.
I know there's multiple sugars in there, and 2 cream,
Wow.
and 15 different blends of coffee and tea all in 1 cup, and just be sitting there like, and just typing.
And you're writing while you're drinking your. Yes.
Occasionally, yes.
So,
occasionally, I'll hit a key or 2.
Yeah. So your point is that you and your mom, you get up in the morning.
Up really early in the morning.
That's
and
when
we
you write.
start doing writing. So.
Yeah. That's mommy and son
That's
time.
beautiful.
That's pretty cool.
And then I have to go to school.
Yeah.
I mean, I have an ELA teacher who's like awesome. I get to like write my book in class when I have free time. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So are we done?
Keep writing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I look. Here it is. Escape from Valo, and then we
have 2 copies.
Right, we do. Here's Race to Crash Point Tower.
2 copies of that too.
Right, and then we got Dr. Afra here. I got more comics. I don't want to bring out all of them. Yeah, I do have quite a few.
That's all right.
But once again, this is because of you two. All this. So thank you so much for all of this. This is wonderful.
What is this?
Yes. All right. So we are good. All right.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Okay.
So you can find us wherever you get your podcast. Socials are Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Fathers and Galaxy. Website, fathersandgalaxy.com. Please check out our merch store, fathersandgalaxy.myspreadsshop.com, and donate to our Patreon page, patreon.com/fathersandgalaxy.
Okay.
Did I miss anything?
No, that's it. That's it. Thank you so much.
Oh, and email us at kernapp@thegalaxy.com.
Yes, we have an email account.
We have an email.
All right. Daniel Jose Oler, Alyssa Wong, authors of Escape from Valo. Thank you so much. This has been awesome. Thank you. I can't thank you more than enough.
We should all
Thank
do
you so
like a
much.
movie pose to
All right.
close out this episode.
All right. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. Okay.
Doctor Strange!
All right. All right. This is how we sign off. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. So next time, take care. And we will see you again.
Spider-Man!